Thank you everyone for joining today. So what we're talking about today is just around hybrid cloud and how Infortrend and Toshiba are able to offer something that can assist in those kind of environments. So firstly, we're just going to be talking kind of generally about it and about hybrid cloud. What is it? And then why companies are seeing hybrid cloud as a benefit to them, and then how Infortrend and Toshiba can help resolve the needs of hybrid cloud for them. So during the presentation, there is a Q&A section you should be able to see on your screen where you can submit questions. We are going to be having a Q&A at the end. That's kind of the main point of this. So if there are any questions, please put them in there and we will put them in the Q&A at the end and read those out. So for now though, we will get going. Okay, so what is hybrid cloud? So the main reason hybrid cloud is now coming around is that a lot of people migrated to cloud very quickly when it started becoming obvious that it was actually, it's a fixed monthly cost. I don't have to buy expensive hardware. It's kind of easier to manage. I don't have to worry about my networking and all those kind of things. Unfortunately, when a lot of people did that, they realized that the cloud isn't a perfect thing. It does have downtime sometimes. It does have issues with some security, and it's not always great for primary applications, things that you really need your business 100% rely on. Having those in the cloud isn't always the best thing for them. So having a mix also means that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. You've got some on-prem, you've got some in the cloud. You're getting the best for cost and the best for performance, but most importantly, it's the best for the end user experience and what the end users actually get at the point of delivery. And that's really important when you're in IT, because if you don't deliver the right performance, the right applications, people will complain and you will lose money as a business overall. So why are companies turning to the private cloud? So we're just looking at five main reasons for that. The first one is security compliance. So a main buzzword at the moment, I'm sure we've all heard the phrase GDPR enough times that we don't ever want to hear it again, but it is a major concern for businesses at the moment. And around other areas of compliance, for example, PCI compliance as well, if you're holding credit card data or financial information, there's all kinds of other levels of compliance in healthcare as well, or in government sectors where actually cloud services don't fit, or they may not fit at every point, and you have to kind of mix and match bits to work with what complies and what doesn't. So a lot of businesses now are turning to hybrid cloud just to solve compliance issues. Critical data and applications that are based on, really needing high levels of security, having that private environment locally, especially if it's something like an air-gapped network where you can almost completely segment it from your main infrastructure, have no internet access whatsoever. There are environments in science and technology, or even in government sectors or healthcare, where this is actually now a requirement, especially since the rise of ransomware. Having these air-gapped networks is really important. But if you do have areas of your business that aren't reliant on that level of compliance, so it's for example, if you've just got an application that doesn't hold personal or financial information, you may not need to run that on-prem, and you can run that in the cloud. Also, things like if you're running a hosted exchange, for example, that the security is taken care of by Microsoft in that cloud environment in Office 365, and there's a certain level of acceptance around that compliance because it fits in with what you need. So the whole point is security can be mixed and matched with a hybrid environment. If you're on-prem, if you're 100% on-prem, you would probably need to invest in lots of cybersecurity technology, firewalls, all kinds of things. Whereas if you can now choose, okay, I'm going to have one hyper secure area for the things I really need, and something in the cloud that's a little bit less secure, and it also costs me a little bit less in the long run. So it's the best of both worlds. The other one is changing infrastructure. So if you need to have your stuff online all the time, actually being able to have a hybrid environment means that you're always going to be able to deliver those services. If you have downtime on-prem and you've got stuff stored in the cloud, then that's fine. People can still access that business data. They could use mobile devices or 5G to be able to access the cloud. But equally the other way around, if you had all of your infrastructure in the cloud and your internet connection was to go down, you may well have backups of 5G, but actually your on-prem people, the people in the building doing the work on those systems, may suffer. Whereas if you had an on-prem and a hybrid mixture, the on-prem applications would be able to run at their normal performance, giving the normal user experience to the people on site, and the cloud services will help those that are remote. So again, it's just not having all your eggs in one basket, making sure you don't have to change everything on-prem, and you can kind of mix and match with cloud services. You can have some high performance stuff up there as well. So it's always ever changing at the moment what people actually need from their infrastructures, and having that ability to choose between on-prem and cloud really makes it the best cost versus performance and cost versus user experience, and also being able to deliver to your customers all the time. It's like having off-site backups and things like that. It's the same. It should be the same thing with your primary infrastructure, not having everything in the same place. So expectations from customers, and this is the key one I was talking about a minute ago. So for example, let's say you're a sales organization and you've got your main sales database. If that was stored in the cloud, and you had, let's say the cloud had some form of outage and it had to migrate or something like that, and you ended up having very, very slow performance on that database that your business relies on a day-to-day basis, that means your staff are not going to be able to be as efficient, and you're going to lose money. So you can then, obviously, if you're as a cloud provider, you can expand and change, and you can add resources into it to be able to accommodate for that, which is great. But if it's on premise and you can have something that's very, very fast, so you're able to use, let's say, an all-flash solution for your on-prem, for your primary applications, that thing that your business relies on a day-to-day basis is always going to be the best performance. You can then use DR scenarios to say, if my site completely dies today, I can migrate it up to the cloud in almost in real time, maybe losing upwards of maximum of 15 minutes of data, things like that, and continue running. So you need to be able to be sure that your customers, not only internally but externally, the end users, the people that you're delivering a service to, are able to always have their data protected, secure, and accessible at all times, which is really what matters. Simplifying cost seems strange when we're talking about hybrid cloud. The best thing about cloud itself is that monthly fee. It's a fixed cost that everyone knows you've got, and it's there every single month. The problem with primary applications running in the cloud is actually they can require an absolutely massive amount of resource. So for example, if we were to talk about something like SAP, for example, SAP is a very, very RAM hungry application. So running that in the cloud is definitely the best for continuity, because it's going to give you that constant delivery. But it also means that you have to have a very, very powerful set of servers hosted in the cloud with massive RAM resources and SSD resources to be able to supply that delivery to the application. So while it is a fixed cost, it's a very high fixed cost. If you were to do the same infrastructure on-prem, it's going to be a much higher cost up front. It's going to be a very, very costly thing to build and very costly thing to do. But in the long run, because you can sweat those assets out for 5 to 7 years, maybe 8 years if you go pretty high enough at the beginning, then actually in the long run it may well be cheaper. And having a mix of those environments is again beneficial from a cost perspective. So being able to pick and choose what is hosted where and which is the best cost solution for you is great. Now, the one good thing I will mention here with Infortrend obviously is having the ability to not be fixed to a specific cloud service and integrate with different ones. So actually, if at the moment it's cheaper to be with service provider A, you can switch to B the next month or quarter and move your data around at any time, which is obviously giving you that flexibility as well. And then we go on flexibility. So remote working is probably the biggest thing that's affecting businesses right now. With cloud services, the best thing with that is having the access to the data. So if you've got an on-prem storage device, let's say it's a NAS, for example, having the ability to mirror that data that's on-prem on your NAS into a cloud environment means that you can have a second place for your users to access the data. One thing a lot of businesses struggled with when COVID hit was the amount of traffic, the physical number of connections coming into their network, the number of VPN clients that were connected in. Their infrastructures may not have been set up to do that. The advantage of having data stored in the cloud as well as on-prem when it comes to this level of usage is that if you've got something, let's for example say Azure or S3, people can mount those from their home and onto the cloud themselves. So they can have direct access to that data stored in the cloud without having to come to your local network and VPN into the business. Obviously things like databases and things like that are separate, but for a general file access, it's much, much easier and reduces the strain on the local network. So that's another great thing for these kind of cloud hosted and hybrid scenarios. The people that are in the office working on them still have them, and your critical applications are still running locally, and you can have users VPN in to be able to access those. But non-critical applications or non-critical files in the cloud can be accessed remotely with no impact on the local network. So those are kind of 5 key points as to why people are looking at hybrid cloud. If you've got anything you want to ask about that, please chuck it into the questions now. And what I'm going to do now is hand over to Kenny, and Kenny's going to take you through the Infortrend side and how Infortrend's GS product can help solve all of these concerns. So Kenny, over to you.
Thank you, Stefan. This is Kenny calling from Infortrend headquarters, and I'm happy to be here to introduce our GS hybrid cloud solution. So first, let me introduce what is our GS. GS is a unified storage, which is consolidating SAN storage and NAS storage in a single chassis. So as you can see from the following figure, it is a unified storage with SAN storage with 5 quick access with different protocols, including fiber channel, SCSI, InfiniBand, or SAS. Okay, that's for block level. And for NAS, for enterprise level file sharing, we also provide XFS file system with the most common network shared protocol, including Samba, NFS, AFP, etc. So this is for on-prem data sharing and file access for different applications. And another feature highlights of this product is that we provide a proprietary software called Eon Cloud Gateway that can synchronize and migrate your data with a public cloud. And as you can see from the figure, those are the vendors we're now supporting, including major vendors such as AWS and Microsoft Azure, Alibaba Cloud, Google Cloud, or a newcomer called Wasabi. And if you have any projects that needs to be customized with extra S3-like protocol or a cloud provider, we would like to do the software integration. For example, we are now doing the product development for Hitachi Cloud Platform or KTU Cloud for the Korean customer. So it is an all-in-one solution, which is very flexible and is suitable for enterprise hybrid cloud solution. And I would like to emphasize that our GS is not just only a unified storage, it is designed for enterprise. So for the hardware wise, it provides redundant controller with redundant power supply unit and cache protection technology to prevent any data leakage or power outage. So you can enjoy the always on service for your enterprise hybrid cloud solution. And the next part is that for the current company, if they want to configure a hybrid cloud solution, they don't have to change their existing data infrastructure because we all know that people are used to configure file sharing with their existing shared protocols such as Samba, NFS, and with advanced ACL, access control management, or even to integrate with their existing Active Directory or their LDAP server. So with the hybrid cloud integration, they don't have to change the existing environments into object storage. As for the performance, we all know that the current cloud vendors, they are limited by the network bandwidth for the current infrastructure with 1 gig or up to 10 gig transmission. But for on-premise storage, we're now supporting up to 25 or 40 gig data transmission for the Ethernet. And for fiber channel, we also have 16 gig and 32 gig for fast data access for block level access. So you don't have to worry about the performance. And another thing is that you can transmit and synchronize your SAN data or NAS data to a public cloud. As for the security, to meet multiple, for the multiple government compliances, our on-prem storage, which is our GS, is now supporting AES 2x6-bit encryption for the data on rest. And for the data on fly, we also have SSL encryption for the data transmission through the network. And besides that, we also provide open drive policy that you don't have to purchase bundle drive through our with our storage. So you can choose for those self-encrypted drive with extra layer of data protection. So for such solution, you can prevent any data breach for your critical or confidential data. And what we love our YungStore GS is that it consolidates all the advantage for on-premise storage and also cloud storage. So you can see from the volume figure that it consolidates the high performance. You can cache for the hot data or frequently accessed data on the cloud to a local folder. So you can enjoy the low latency and high throughput for those data. For high security, as I mentioned in the previous slides, we provide all complete data protection for your confidential enterprise data, because we know that every piece of data for your confidential data matters. And for the cloud, you can enjoy the unlimited capacity because you don't have to install extra JBots or purchase extra hard drives for the hardware installation. And for the equipment investment, we all know that extra power consumption or also system maintenance may cost time and money. So you don't have to invest extra cost for that. So it is all-in-one and consolidate both the advantage for on-premise and cloud storage. And first part, we would like to emphasize that our GS is a perfect on-premise storage for hybrid cloud solution because it consolidates file level and block level access for your existing applications, such as database. You can configure it with a fiber channel, and you can migrate or backup or configure a tiering feature through the on-premise data and the cloud storage. So to do so, you can leverage the high performance on the premise storage and also leverage the high capacity for the long-term archive in the cloud. As for the file level, you can enjoy the file sharing or collaborated editing via different site users. And we also provide different access control management that provides file lock between users. Okay, so that's the file sharing solution. And next part I would like to highlight is that we provide dynamic and flexible cache modes. So what is cache mode is that for a hybrid cloud solution, you can migrate and back up all the data to the cloud. But what if you just only some of the files that is critical and frequently accessed? So you don't have to mirror the same amount of data on your premise storage. So on top of that, we came up this solution with cache feature that you can cache some hot data, which is the data that is frequently accessed from the clients on the premise. So with that, they can enjoy the fast access as their local server. And the second fold of the advantage is that you don't have to configure such large amount of storage data in your existing infrastructure. Okay, so and another feature highlights of this feature is that you can manually identify the description for the cache module. So for example, if you want to cache a specific type of data on the on-premise GS, you can set up the policy on our GUI And you can set, for example, for the type of the files that is in PDF, you can cache first on the GS, or the file name consisting Kenny, you can also cache those data on premise folder, so Kenny can access those files as fast as local. He don't have to log into the cloud dashboard and download those files through the panel. And the last part will be the easy file sharing across different remote location. As we know, during the COVID-19, most of the vendors in the company are working from home. So to prevent any multiple write access to the same file on the cloud, we came up with a solution which is called access control management to prevent multiple write requests to the same file. Okay, so you don't have to worry about file versioning or file to be overwritten with other co-workers doing the collaborative editing. So this is the file sharing and also the file access solution with our Eon Cloud Gateway. Okay, do we have any questions upon this page?
Not yet. I think we'll hold questions until the end as well. Okay, I think we're getting some in, but it's on different slides, so we'll get to them.
Thank you for the reminder.
That's okay.
Okay, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're now here from Rainer from Toshiba.
Yes, this is Rainer from Toshiba. I'm happy to say a few words about the HDD as heart of data storage component in Infortrend's GS models. We need hard disk drives to store a lot of capacity, but they also need to fulfill all the requirements that we were talking about earlier: performance, flexibility, reliability, security, and all of this as an economic cost, because we are discussing high amount of storage, multiple dozens of terabytes, up to the kind of fragments of petabytes. And what we are recommending, what we have evaluated together with Infortrend as a very suitable storage component, are the nearline or enterprise capacity 3.5-inch SAS hard disk drives. They are scalable, so are available from 2 terabyte to 16 terabyte. They are also pretty fast. In the history, in the previous times, we were often using 10,000 or 15,000 RPM drives for speed reasons. But the modern nearline drives with 12, 14, 16 terabyte, due to their high areal density, so they give out a lot of data in a given time frame. So weighs more than 250 megabyte per second. So they support the speed. They also support the reliability. First of all, from their reliability rating, so low failure rates, 5 years warranty, high workloads, continuous 24/7 operations. But also as a nearline SAS drive, they have the SAS interface. It's a dual port interface, and this matches well with the dual controller construction of the GS models. So there's always access to a drive. So any kind of mission critical, business critical data is never being inaccessible. We also have those drives with a self-encrypted option. So you can use either the encryption of the system with normal drives, or you populate them with self-encrypted, so that if someone steals a drive, there's no way to mess around with your data. And as I said, the reliability, like listed here, and kind of with being nearline 3.5-inch drives, 12, 14, 16 terabyte, that's the cheapest way for terabytes and terabytes of enterprise quality hard disk drive storage. we have tested these nearline SAS drives in different proof of concepts with Infortrend. So they are working pretty well. I should also mention that there are also SATA drives available with the same quality. But for the SATA drives, as they have the SATA interface with only one channel, we don't have this high availability and security features. The cost is just slightly lower, so we wouldn't recommend to use the SATA drives in the GS with just a few cents more. You will have a well-suited SAS dual interface, dual controller solution. That's all about hard disk drives. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainer. Cheers for that. I think hard drives obviously the heart of these kind of systems as well. Obviously, they don't work without hard drives, so it's really good to know about that. And I think the point about capacity there is a big thing as well. The drives, the cost per terabyte, the bigger the drive, obviously the cheaper those terabytes become. So actually, we are seeing more and more systems going out with these very high capacity drives. You know, I think most of the time now we're doing 12, 14, or 16 terabyte drives in most systems. Because of that advantage of the higher cost per terabyte lower cost per terabyte on the higher capacity drives. So thank you for that, Rainer. Okay, so we're going to move on to questions now. We've got a couple here that are quite interesting. So I'll start with this one because I think it's more relevant to the early part of the presentation. So someone's asked us about security when they're moving applications or data across multiple platforms. So Kenny, can you talk us through the security measures when sending data to and from the cloud?
Yes, as I mentioned in the previous slides, during the data on fly, we do support TLS, SSL, such a kind of encryption protocol to ensure the data cannot be leakage during the transmission. And for the data on rest, we also have AES 256-bit encryption for the data. And also, you can also configure the SED drive to protect your confidential data.
Okay, yeah. So the other thing as well to consider is, I think Kenny, you mentioned as well, and Rainer as well, I think self-encrypting drives. I think at the moment the self-encrypting drives are really the best way of getting that level of protection without having to sacrifice on performance. So if you do normal encryption on a device, so the normal software-based encryption on a NAS or a SAN, you're probably going to take Kenny, would you say it's fair to say a 30 to 40% performance hit?
Degradation, yes, correct.
Yeah. So the advantage of self-encrypting drives is you get the same level of protection because each hard drive has its own encryption chip on
yes.
the actual drive itself, you only lose, I think it's 1 or 0.5% of the overall performance.
That is correct.
Yeah, and so that's another major consideration when you're looking at data security and encryption, is especially on GDPR, you do have to be sure that data is encrypted not just in transit but also at rest. Then the key thing there is at rest. So trying to get that level of protection without sacrificing performance is really important. And that SED function is controlled by the Infortrend within the UI. So you can, if you have self-encrypting disks, there's a whole page on the Infortrend interface where you can set the password, set the policies, and it's all handled by the interface itself. So it's very easy to manage. Okay, that's right. So someone said as well, for small businesses, how can they manage their hybrid cloud strategy? I'll take that as at the beginning, and I'll see if we can pull Kenny in. So for small businesses, the main thing for small businesses is reliable cost. So the cloud makes that a very helpful thing, because it's going to be this amount per month, every month, and you don't have to worry about buying a big server environment or whatever. But the key thing for small businesses is growth. And that's the same across the board. All small businesses want to become medium businesses. We all know that. So as you grow, those costs can become quite excessive. So actually, the main thing for a small business is planning out, as your business grows and as it changes, which parts of your business are most important and where do I want that data to be sat. Also, as a small business, it might well be that you're okay using third-party services to transact your online payments, for example, things like that, which means you don't have to worry about PCI compliance. But as your business grows and you start bringing that payment in-house, and you may have to start storing, let's say, credit card information, that's when you start having to look at extra levels of compliance, and having on-prem then is actually a bit easier. You may have to start looking at pen testing and things like that as well. So the main thing for small businesses is actually just planning. It's looking at which applications are most important to your business and where they sit. Kenny, would you say that's fair? Have you got anything you want to add to that?
Thank you, Stefan. I second on your opinion, and also we do have another hardware solution for the small business, which is called our GSE Pro 2000 or 1000 series. It is a desktop unified storage that it is suitable for SMB or SMEs. So, which means that they can invest a small amount of money for the hardware installation in the during the business development, and also they can synchronize or migrate their data with the different cloud provider at the same time. So which means that depends on the application you're using, you can synchronize your data to a Google Cloud, or if you want to share some file with a specific private cloud built by like Wasabi or OpenStack, you can migrate some of the files to do the file sharing. So which means that they don't have to invest a lot of money in the beginning.
Okay, cheers. And that's the same feature set as the rack mount, isn't it? There's no difference between the features.
Yes, correct.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, last one that's pre-submitted was, are there certain workloads that are better in the cloud or on-prem? From my opinion, the no-brainers in the cloud are things like emails, Exchange servers, things like that. They're all easily managed, all well proven and solved. On-prem for me is always going to be things like databases or anything that has a high performance requirement as well as a high resiliency requirement. That for me is the way I would split it. Kenny, is there anything you want to add to that? Do you think that's about right?
I would like to add that from my point of view, from my point of view, I'm seeing that some of the cloud provider, they charge with IO per month. Okay. So that's also cost extra money for the customer. So I would suggest for workload intensive applications to keep it on-premise storage. On-premise storage.
Brilliant. Okay, so those are the submitted ones. Have we got anyone who wants to raise their hand? They can ask a question verbally in the attendees. Or they can submit one, but if you want to raise your hand, you can. Okay, I don't see anyone raising, so I think we're good. I'll just make sure no one's put any questions in the... Nope. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. Kenny, thank you very much, and Rainer as well for putting this on. So if anyone's got any further questions, obviously you can follow up with us or Infortrend. And thank you again for joining.